really quiet. Clifford, are you ready?
Yes, it's the witching hour at K96, the ultimate jazz music. Are you prepared for some romance and love on the rocks?
Welcome to the F13 podcast. This is much better than me screaming most of the time in the intro, I think. We'll see if people like this. Guys, if you like me screaming, let us know. If you like this cool, sultry intro, let us know also. We'll see what's
I
better for the
always, I
listener.
always, I always like the smooth baritone.
You are. We both are right now.
With my new fancy mic. Oh, look at this. Right.
Right.
We'll get there.
People have been complaining that you sound. No, they haven't really. But this is great. You have a brand new mic. Sound crystal
We
clear.
addressed a problem that did not exist.
Yeah, it was a slight problem. It's an audio podcast with some.
I'm
video.
juicing up on iced coffee to prepare for Mike's energy. So,
well, yeah, it's hard to match, but you just gave it away. Our guest today, very excited. We were like, you know what? We like talking comedy, and I think this person.
I honestly didn't realize we were live yet, so that was just honest to God banter between my good friend Brian and I. Yes, that was real. That was as real as it gets.
We've been live for a minute.
Yes, I didn't know that. So yeah. The calls are coming from inside the house.
Can you see the live thing on the screen, or is that just on my screen? Because
but it's like this big,
tiny,
and you got to cut me some slack. I'm still dealing with a wisdom tooth I pulled a couple days ago.
Poor baby. I had 3 done once. My wife has the video, and I was cracking up the whole time in the car ride home. No idea what I was saying. It's a good time.
Were you still like high off the nitrous?
Yeah, a little bit. I kept saying like the doctor didn't even say hi to me. The doctor didn't even say hi to me. I kept I was like fixated on that. For some reason.
That's weird because my guy steps me down off the nitrous when I go, and then like they're like, okay, now you're breathing oxygen, and then I get out of there just like I feel right as rain, and they're like, oh, I forgot this guy has high tolerance. Let's crank this up. And I'm just like,
I had 3 done once. Maybe they had to like, and I'm a giant, so maybe they had to like really like it was enough for a bear.
They were like, they had like a stump grinder in there.
Yeah. Speaking of stump grinders, let's bring in our first guest somehow. I've been a fan of this guy for 20 years. I've known him for a long time. Super funny comic and one of the most unique voices, I always say, of this world. Myq Kaplan's here, everybody.
Hey. Wow. Hello. Thank you. What if I had committed to one of the unique voices in comedy? If I made my voice unique in that way. Now just to my regular, totally normal voice.
You and Emo Phillips are the most unique voices. What's up, man? How you doing today?
Happy to be here. Love you, and very lovely to meet you, Cliff, as well. So I always love chatting. Whether comedy or not. So yes. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I've seen that the live indicator is on. I'm not saying that I should be your co-host instead of Cliff, but just putting it out there. I'm available.
Guys, we'll take a vote.
All 200 of our fans will love it.
We'll take a vote, see who they want back next week. We have to change the title again of the podcast.
Yeah, so Mike, like normally, we often geek out about video game stuff, pop culture stuff, comedy. You skew, obviously, more towards the latter, and I have a huge interest in comedy. I love it. I came up with George Carlin and Pryor, and I know everyone always says that. I grew up with Johnny Carson while watching Late Night. Then Leno, but Leno sucks, so we'll put him over there. And then just I go to our local comedy club like once a week, and they like reserve 103 for us now. We're at that point, and yeah. They literally like the guy they do the thing where they're walking this sort of like, do we even need to show you now? And I'm like, I guess not. I got 103 in the big room now, Brian. That's right. We're moving on up to the east side.
Wow.
It's the only sound effect I have.
I respect the craft. It's really truly an art form, and I love it. And it's just awesome. I did not know your work until Brian had mentioned it. And I had mentioned early in the pre-show in our mini green room that I was drowning in all of your work in the last 2 nights, watching it all. And damn, that's some next level stuff, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love comedy, and I also know there's people who don't watch almost any comedy. There's people who they do watch comedy, but there's like a couple comedians. So I
call those people my parents. No,
they might not have gotten to me yet, but I think that fame in comedy is when somebody like your parents or my mom knows the name of a comedian. That is a certain level of making it. Real quick, funny thing, Cliff, when you started saying like about your history with comedy of who you had watched, it sounded to me, I might have misheard, but it sounded to me like you said, I came up with George Carlin and Richard Pryor, which to me, like normally if a comedian said that, they'd be like, that's who I was like going to open mics with. Can you imagine? I was like, wow, you really, I guess you stopped at some point.
I was doing Showtime at the Apollo when I was 6. So.
Yeah,
cool.
But
grew up with.
Right.
Yeah. I came up with George Carlin. I invented him. He didn't exist. And then I came up with him. I'm like, there should be a George Carlin. Words can mean lots of things is the joke here. And we can leave and move past it.
We unleash Myq over. This is what Myq does. It's I've said before, and I've told you this compliment, and I mean it as a compliment. I think when I told you, were like, whoa, you are my generation's or our generation's Robin Williams in a way. I feel you're so all over the place, but it's so controlled. You know exactly where you're going. You'll start a joke and you'll finish it 25 minutes later, which, but you know what you're saying in that 24 minutes. You know where it's going. Sometimes I think.
I really appreciate it. I think I do. I would say more often than not know where I'm going to end when I start. But often some of the joy is in discovering that along the way. Like, for example, this thing that I'm about to say, I think I know where it's going to end, but let's find out. I think it's I do appreciate the compliment. I think it is a compliment. Robin Williams is one of, the greatest comedic voices of ever. And so it's particularly funny that you're like, I hope you take this as a compliment, me comparing you to this great comedic mind, and don't take it like, oh, Myq, you're like Robin Williams, you should kill yourself. Then here's the thing. I want to conclude by just saying, if you are suicidal, please seek help, reach out. You're not alone. Sincerely, I don't want to make light of suicide without also making heavy about it. And that is what I'll call my Cliff's notes right there, or Brian's notes. There you go.
Amazing, folks.
We're already talking about suicide 6 minutes in.
Might be a record. Cliff's been to good nights. Myq, you've been to good nights down here in Raleigh. Are you coming back anytime soon, by the way? I hope.
I don't have it on the schedule right now, but I always love it. Try to get there once a year-ish when possible. Yeah.
Well, hopefully
Dude, I've started to pick up in these trends because again, we go once a week. They gave us these VIP badges at one point, and it was a running gag. We'd be in the front row. My wife and I would wear the VIP badges, and the comedian would see the badge and be like, the fuck's up with that? And for a while I'd be like, I get a hand job in the green room. I don't know. And then I just gave up on that. I was just like, I don't know. And then eventually I just hold it up and the comedian would wear the VIP badge. It was fun. But they love us there. But the thing is, I've learned so much from Brian about like hacky comedy. And by the way, that show Hacks, I fucking love.
Wait, hold on. What?
I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about Brian being a hack.
I've been learning by watching Brian every hacky thing, the way he talks, the topics he chooses.
And I'm batting 1,000 for my quotes being taken out of context. But
that was great.
The suicide quote is still hanging there. But the whole thing is when they come and they insult the venue. And it's like, it's aspiring comedian just like, oh, and I'm here in the basement of a Shake Shack. And you're like, yeah, dude, this place has hosted like a bazillion like comedians that have gone on to become enormous. Like, don't insult. You're getting paid through this venue, you fucking asshole. Like, what are you doing? And it always bothers me.
Absolutely. I do think that there is like a self-deprecating way to do it, like where the art of it, like if the person was like, this place is bad, and I'm here, like I'm in the place that's bad. Like, what does that say about me? I mean, like, obviously not literally on the nose that, but absolutely. Of course, if you see week after week a comedian come into a room and make the same observation about it, but then every once in a while you'll see somebody make a completely an innovative one. You're like, wow, that is something. Because I mean, we're all, we're all living in the same world. We're all swimming in the same, cultural waters. Maybe we're not. I'm over here. You're over there. We're totally different. I'm on Earth, but specifically,
no, you're not.
Yeah, I probably. How do you define Earth? I'm on the second floor of a building, so I'm not touching dirt whatsoever. But to your point about the name tag, the VIP tags, like I feel like this is a thing that under optimal like nobody did anything like super wrong in this situation. Like the venue gives you a VIP tag. That's nice of them to do. It's reasonable of them to do. The comedian sees
weird
the tag and is like, what is that? That is a reasonable question because they don't know. It kind of maybe would be good if the venue was like, some VIPs get these VIP tags. That's what those are. So it's not weird. You don't that's why they're wearing that. But then he says to you, what's that? And you're like, shouldn't the person at the comedy club know about the comedy club thing? Like it's all like, I feel like that's kind of in a nutshell, how everyone is basically like, if you learn enough information about someone and their experience, you can understand it. It's reasonable. It's like Andy Kindler used to have a joke where he was on Letterman talk, and his whole bit was like correcting other comedians, like rhetorical questions or answering them. Like, I think one of his jokes was like, he's like, comedians will be like, sugar-free gum, who's that for? And it's like, diabetics, just like there's sometimes an answer to a question. There's almost always an answer to a question. We might not know what it is. It might take some thought.
I think next time I'm going to say, yeah, we're actually scouting for Netflix right now.
You should. There you go. One of my favorite Andy Kindler bits is when he's like, this guy is a stupid, no good, lousy jerk. That's my cousin. Let me finish.
Yeah. my favorite of his, I have so many favorites, is he's like, who am I? The what am I guy? What am I? The who am I guy? It's just beautiful.
That's a very Myq Kaplan-esque.
That's that's old school kind of vaudeville-ish kind of who's on first kind of vibe.
It kind of is. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, Myq, where did you get your style from? Because you're not like set up punchline. You go off on these tangents that are all over the place sometimes, that all make sense and do, like, it's very hard to do what you do, which is why
the Final Destination joke killed me.
Thank you.
So was your style always? I remember, I'm trying to think back in the day when I first met you, like, was it always like that? I believe it was, but like, I feel like now you've really perfected this really fast, like chaotic, fun style. Like, where'd that come from?
I appreciate it. I have, I'll give you the short answer after the long answer. But the long answer is, and the sincere answer is, that I do think when I started, it was less like this. When I started, it was more like now it's more, the particle wave duality of light. Like, where is light a particle, a photon? Is it a wave, like a light wave? It is both of those things. Like, or in a musical symphony, every note is a kind of, distinct unit, but also every note combines with every note to make a melody, to make a harmony. And so in the beginning of my comedy career, I would say I was more writing discrete units of like a one-line joke. That was it. A setup, a punchline, like, let's see, coffee, not my cup of tea. That was a joke, and it still is. Like, just set up, punchline, 6 words, we're done. And so I would have a lot of those. Maybe I have another joke
for sale,
coffee.
baby shoes never used.
Exactly. My baby is actually a Kenyan marathon runner, so he never needed them. And that's why I thought he would need the shoes, but he was like, I'm fine, Dad. And he's like, he's winning. But when I started, it was all that for about 4 years. It was only, I wrote it, I said it the way that I wrote it. I didn't riff on stage. I wasn't like open to anything happening other than what the plan was, until I met 2 people, Myq Sherman, a good friend.
I love Myq. Just spoke
also
to him
from
like 2 months ago. Yeah.
Your state, originally, or for much of his life. But I met him in Boston. We started hosting a comedy show together. We love each other, as humans and friends, and as like comedic partners. Because he was like, we wrote a whole song about how we're different. Like, he was like, I'm like, Myq is tall and I don't suffer from depression. That sort of thing. And like,
Myq is I would say more of an improviser now, right? Like,
yes,
he's a fucking master. He's so funny. He's on my other Playable Characters podcast a couple times, and he doesn't play video games, and he is pretending to be these video game characters a bunch of times, and he slays. He's such a funny dude.
And so he moved to Boston, like in addition to doing stand-up, to like work for an improv theater in town. So he came from improv. That's one of his, major skills. He teaches it. He doesn't do stand-up anymore, but he acts, he writes, he does other things. But the improv the improvisational style, like when we would host together, I was like, I have our script, and Micah was like, and I'll be a monster, and I'll like just riff and do crowd work and be in the moment.
Yeah.
And like I was sort of influenced and inspired by him. And also in 2006, I saw Rory Scovel for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him like 2 weeks in a row. We were in the Seattle comedy competition together. And so I saw him every night, where in a competition where most people were doing just the same 5 minutes or the same 10 minutes, your honed like festival late night set, he was just in the moment. So like he would do some of the same jokes, but they would continue into different ways. And like just he would play. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. And so I then after that started like doing my own way of like, I have things I want to say and the ways that I want to say them, but also I had one specific joke that never worked, but somebody was like, I like that idea. And then I tried it and then just kept talking after the part that was written was over. And I stumbled upon a punchline and I was like, oh, I guess I'd written the setup and I hadn't gotten to the punchline. And so I was like, if that can happen, I gotta set the table for this to be able to happen. So like, I definitely come up with ideas and make them as funny and as complete as I can off stage, but I know that I'm going to be improvising with my future self on stage to like allow myself to be present in the moment, to discover things. And so that is now, what I love doing, and then ultimately, like if I'm filming a special or recording an album, I still leave some openness, but I'm like, eventually it settles into its finished-ish form.
Yeah.
But part of the joy of discovery, of creation, of curation is what happens because, you can write an orchestral symphony, or you can be a virtuosic jazz improviser. And I do both. I'm saying I'm better than
that's what I was saying.
Individual.
You have the hybrid. You have the rehearsed part, and then you just riff on that. And then once you got that all kind of gels together, that's when you boom do a special, right?
Essentially it's that easy, kids. We've demystified it. And
step 3, profit.
But the short answer is that my comedy style is my mom on the phone.
Yeah. Gotcha. All over the place. I too remember the first time I saw Rory live. I think it was down. Remember the old Village Ma down in the Village? Yeah. I think that was the first time I saw him at a show, and I was like, oh, this guy is doing something different. This guy's super funny and just not doing what like you think like stand-up is. That's when like the alt stuff really started to becoming a thing, like downtown, like at the Invite Them Up, like Bobby and Eugene's show, things like that. All those alt people were doing like really cool shit that wasn't being done in the clubs. And
for your listeners who aren't familiar with Rory, he has a few albums, and he has
probably know him
on Netflix. He has a special on HBO Max or whatever that's called at this time that Conan produced. He did Conan a number of times on his own and with John Doerr.
One of the best sets ever.
These are my list of names I'm writing down to look up after this.
Yeah,
so
Rory
basically, go ahead. If you want to explain. So basically what happened, him and Rory and John Doerr came out. Well, Conan was like, guys, I'm so sorry. We accidentally booked 2 comics tonight, but they both wanted to just come out here and do their sets. So they both went out and did their sets at the same time, talking over each other, and they didn't acknowledge each other like at all. And it was like it was genius. It was so funny because like they knew when to say something loud and like so you can hear like what they were saying. But it was such a weird, funny, stupid, like perfect thing.
Oh yeah, and then there's also they did it another time. They had another set together where one of them started on stage, but then the other like was in the audience, and then it became masterfully chaotic and beautiful. So look up those sets, and specifically to obviously Rory's most of his specials are complete. At the end of the process where he has like gone on the road and improvised and worked things out, but he also has a special that's like part documentary called Live Without Fear that I think is on YouTube, and that's one where he did at this theater in Georgia that's not there anymore, I think, but it was like one of his beloved like home venues, and he did 6 nights in a row, an hour of improvised stand-up, different every night, and they codified that to that if you can't see him live, but if you can't see him live, watch that special because that captures the as much as you can capture in the moment.
Was that the Rory one?
That's this is all Rory.
What was the special called? I'll just look it up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Live Without Fear.
I mean, that's the experimental stuff and the viral stuff. I mean, I know you guys obviously know all this shit, but I just once in a while, about once every couple months, I'll listen to the Bill Burr Philly rant. which to me is one of the greatest things ever.
Yeah, one of the first viral stand-up clips, I feel like back in the day before
it really was. But the fact that he won those assholes over at the end is just fucking perfect.
Yeah. Comedy is beautiful.
And Rory was on Rooster, the Steve Carell show.
Oh yeah,
and he was so funny in that. He was like a dimwit cop, and he kept losing his gun all the time. But it was very funny. It's fun to see people like that we knew way back in the day, like that we came up with, so to speak. That that are doing amazing shit. Yeah.
And Cliff, I know you mentioned moments ago when you accidentally called Brian a hacker on purpose that the show Hacks is incredible. I watched it all, and now I'm watching it a second time with my girlfriend, where we just finished season 3 of 5, and it is a beautiful. It's so interesting. Like, certainly it's a half hour, generally speaking. It's, about comedy, and I feel like it's been classified as a comedy. So like in the Emmys or in the Golden Globes or whatever,
like The Bear or Game of Thrones, the comedy.
But it is absolutely like, and it's certainly, I think, more comedic than The Bear, but it is more dramatic and more emotional and more like substantially meaningful. It is not pure comedy all the time. It's like, but it's about like these very realistic and like hilarious, obviously, flawed human beings as we often are. And it's just
the final season I thought was awesome. I thought they stuck the landing. It ultimately, it had heart. That's the whole, like, I laughed, I cried, I can't believe I ate the whole thing kind of thing. It's like, the running gag of her hand size that they committed to the entire time, and they finally just nailed that.
Really
and then,
perfect.
The whole like "don't leave me" thing was just beautiful too. And all the Emmy nods. And speaking of Emmy nods, Widow's Bay.
Love it.
A bunch.
Delightful. Yeah.
Great show.
Patricia just completely steals the show on that show. Yeah. She's utterly amazing.
Oh, have you? This isn't comedy specific, but because in the month where we only get in our household Apple TV like a month at a time, and then we cram all the stuff
and then
that
cancel.
We can. Yeah, and so for $13 you can have 100 TV shows, and the one that I'm like telling everyone, it's not comedy specifically or genre wise at all, but there's so much funny stuff in it, but it's just so good. Slow Horses, have you guys watched?
No.
Slow Horses, it's about a British spy agency headed by Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is the main actor, and like he is incredible. The writing is incredible. There are like 3-minute segment. There's like scenes in it that I'm like, this is better than The Usual Suspects, what they have done, like a heist in 3 minutes.
I love
and that. It's if you have Apple TV or get it for a month, it is like beautiful high art.
Yeah, no, definitely add that to the list. We started watching Lucky last night, which is the new Anya Taylor-Joy show done by Jonathan Tropper, who did Banshee back in the day. And Banshee was a really underrated, good show. But I love that you're basically Apple TV maxing at this point.
Yeah.
That is.
How can I'm edging Apple TV? Just get right to that point.
They got plenty of money. Speaking of large hands, this has nothing to do with anything we've talked about. Very weird. One time, so my wife is an opera singer. She loves opera, and we went to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We went to go see Renee. I've told you this. We went to go see Renee Fleming one time.
That's
Renee
when I was
Fleming,
drinking.
Very, very famous opera singer. And we were at the opera in New York, right? Very fancy, posh thing, and waiting for Renee Fleming to come out. And this guy just stands up like next to us, or I forget, he's in front of us, and he's just kind of like stretching. He's looking around. We're just saying hi to people, and he's like, "Big Renee Fleming fans." My wife's like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan," and he goes, "She's got large hands."
Huh?
That's it. And then just like sat down. We're like, what the? Like one of the most like demure people ever. The first thing you say.
That's like the high class version of the internet dude who's like, I don't like her knees. 2 out of 10 wouldn't bang.
Basically, I was like, what a weird comment about this. One of the best singers ever created.
It's like when the internet became like obsessed with Megan Fox's thumb. Like, yeah, sure, you kick her right out of bed for that. Sure.
Was that a thing? I don't remember the Megan Fox thumb.
Look it up.
You got to remember things. They probably got, just edged out of your brain by this new opera singer hands thing. Maybe he loves it. Maybe he's like, she's the greatest singer and she's got gigantic hands. Oh my God, I want it right next to my nose to make my nose look smaller. Yeah.
Are hands the new feet? I don't know.
Yeah, right?
That's a funny question. Are hands the new feet?
No, it's a thing, Mike, because my wife is on wikifeet.com.
By
And
accident,
somebody went and
right?
scoured. Yeah, she didn't put it up there. And somebody scoured the internet for all photos of my wife's feet that are like, and she has like 5-star feet apparently. And she's sitting there like, I'm not getting paid on this shit. I'm like, if you started an OnlyFans and started charging $10 per foot photo, I would be perfectly okay with that.
Right. Whatever you got to do. Times are tough.
That's so funny. Another brief misunderstanding on my part. This time you said everything perfectly correctly. I understand the truth. But when you said my wife was on WikiFeets, not on purpose, I was like, she came. That's what she said when you stumbled on her in the room. You're like, what are you looking at? She's like, oh no, the website came up accidentally. I don't like looking at. And it's obviously it's fine to look at feet. It's fine to have your feet looked at. It's these are. It's very wholesome in a way. Like,
are you feet shaming my wife?
No, never.
No, I'm saying it's great. She's got I assume the biggest, best feet.
They're all right.
That's what a good foot is, right? If it's Bigfoot. Everyone talks about him the most. He should get
tremendous feet. People are saying she has the best feet.
You know what's funny? There was Bigfoot, who is the blurry guy, and there's also from A Land Before Time, the dinosaur was called Littlefoot, I believe. So look at that.
And then from Game of Thrones, Littlefinger.
Littlefinger.
We just need to find Big Finger. Yeah.
Where is Big Finger?
That's Dane Cook with the super finger.
The Sufi.
Yeah.
Or he hasn't gotten back to me lately, by the way. I'm trying to get Dane Cook on the podcast.
We got to get him on. Or it could be the hamburger helper guy, possibly Big Finger. He's got some big old gloves, right?
He's sticky finger when you think about it.
Yeah. Myq, who do you have like, and I feel like you, like myself, you're a comedy nerd. Like, you love comedy. You're a comedy fan. You watch it still. You probably you enjoy when people do well, all that type of stuff. Do you have like comedy heroes or people that either grew up watching or that you still love? Or who are some of your icons
absolutely
there?
I mean, depending on how much time we have, like just earlier today, like I saw a post on Threads that was like, hey, a lot of people are talking about the bad people in comedy, but who are the people who are, good at comedy. And so here's the list. This is a non-exhaustive list. But
by the way, Threads is basically just people dunking on people. I feel like most of the time it's just like, this is a thing, and someone's just like, fuck you, no it's not. It's like, here's blah. It's like, that's basically
I thought that was all of the internet.
Threads is really wild with it. It is, but Myq, I see you are very active. But yeah, let's do your
I
list.
love it. And one of my favorite things, and this may or may not be like there is truth to what you are saying. It is not all of what Threads is, but also Threads and all of the social media algorithms today are basing themselves around you and your preferences.
Right.
So you dunking on Threads right now is why Threads is showing you in the algorithm. You're like, you love, I mean, I also see a lot of dunking, like America runs on dunking, I say, on the algorithm, but also there are people who are like, I want to share, like, I love this, I love that. And there's like, special interests that people can also dig into.
So many feet in my algorithm.
I mean, because you keep talking about it, it's like, that's what you want. Now it's going to be in all of our algorithms, but
all I have is large opera singers in my algorithm. It's weird. Very, very niche. Very niche, but
so again, this is not an exhaustive list, but here was my genuine good human beings who are also comedians. Maria Bamford, Gary Goldman, Jackie Cation, Josh Gondelman, Laurie Kilmartin, Paul F. Tompkins, Aparna Nancherla, W. Kamau Bell, Beth Stelling, Hari Kondabolu, Joy L. Johnson, Baron Vaughn, Nikki Glazer, Anthony Jeselnik, Liz Glazer, Rory Scovel, Amy Miller, Augie Smith, Kelly McFarland, Steve Hofstetter, Bethany Van Delft, Brett Druck, Sophie Hagen, Brad Wenzel, Abby Wambach, Sid Singh, Lisa Correo, Blake Wexler, Aaron Judge, Pete Holmes, Kenise Mobley, Jeff Tate, Joe Firestone, Maddie Litwack, and Caitlin Palufo. So that's like just offhand, a lot of comedians who I love and know as human beings and love. And I would say, like, when people ask me my favorite comedians, I cannot name just one, but the first person that I usually name is Maria Bamford, because she is not only like just an artistic genius, incredibly funny and just so heartwarmingly human, like offering, like she's like, here's tickets to my shows, but if you can't afford them, let me know. I don't want costs to be prohibitive to you. The fact that she's as transparent about money, like she has specifically like told friends of mine, like, hey, if you want to see this contract from my week at this club, I'd love for you to know, because it's more fair when all of the information is out there and we all benefit from sharing that information. Like, so her transparency about money, her transparency about mental illness in her comedy, offstage, like everything. So I think she is just a stellar comedian, human being, etc. And to go back to my childhood, the first comedy special I ever saw that I remember in full was I was 13 years old, 1991, and it was Paul Reiser, 3.5 Blocks from Home, and I loved it. It's a funny thing because this is like a joke I tell sometimes now about Paul Reiser, usually only at podcasts when it comes up. But Paul Reiser, you might know him from the TV show Mad About You. That was his big sitcom in the
90s. He'll always be Carter Burke to me.
He was a great comic.
Yeah. He was, obviously in Diner. He was in Aliens. He was in the movie Whiplash. He's doing great. He's on The Boys. He's on Stranger Things. Like he is, he's incredible. I got to open for him once. But his book Couplehood, I
read that years ago.
Every copy, whenever we're in the thrift store, whenever we're at a used bookstore, it's like $1, a couple dollars. I get it. I give it to people. I drove around listening to it as a teenager, and so. Basically, here's the joke about him is essentially the truth that like I was 13 when I first heard him. And then I was like, I got to get everything this guy does. I love his show about a man who's in love with his wife. I love his comedy about a man who's in love with his wife. I love his book about a man who's in love with his wife. It really speaks to me as a 13-year-old who's never kissed a girl, but it was just so funny. And I watched it when I was 13. And I never watched it again until 30 years later, like sometime during, the last 5 years, maybe during the lockdown. I was like, I wonder if that special is out there somewhere, and it's on YouTube. And I watched it again for the first time since I was 13, basically. And I was like, it still holds up. And there's like weird, like comedy DNA that like got infused into me, like ways that I like move or talk or say certain things. I'm like, oh, I should not say that because he says that, I was 13 and I didn't realize that it got so ingrained. So he was, I would say, the first like comedy special that really resonated with me. Then in Boston, the first comic that I remember seeing live, because he came to my school and headlined, was a DJ Hazard. I don't know if you ever met DJ.
Oh my God, yes, I love DJ. Holy cow!
So like he made me seeing it live. Like I did the thing that I didn't know comedy could do.
He was a legend up in Boston, right?
Crying. He was from the 80s. Like super hilarious.
So DJ looks like he would be like a weird villain in like an 80s movie. Bald guy, and when you know him, the nicest, goofiest, silliest old guy you'll ever meet. Like just so fun. Me and Mark Riccadonna would go around and do some gigs with him a lot back in the day, and it was just so much fun.
He looks like a Goomba.
His nickname for me was Fuzzy. He would just call me Fuzzy. And sometimes he would open with a joke about his appearance. He would say, I know a lot of you are looking at me thinking like, is this guy a comedian or is there an insane asylum somewhere with a hole in the wall?
One time we picked him up from his place. He was upstate somewhat, I think. And we picked him up and Mark didn't see him in a while. So he's coming like down his steps and DJ had a walker and like the oxygen tank, and Mark's like, oh, I heard he wasn't doing well. And Mark's helping him down the steps. Then he goes, I'm just kidding. And he throws it away. And we all started cracking up. We're like, what a maniac.
Oh, he's
such
best.
a goofball.
So.
The best way he's such a goofball. That's the best way I can explain.
I'm running out of room here. And honestly, Myq, I'm gonna have to go back through the podcast once it's like up and just go through all those names because you're like fucking John Machida up in here.
Go on his Threads post. You can look at that.
Yeah, this is your syllabus. But yeah, DJ made me cry. Like I like was transported. I was alone in the room, and I was like, it was going directly into my brain, into my heart, to my funny bone. Then like Mitch Hedberg was an incredible discovery. Like when sometime in the late 90s, somebody shared one of his banana jokes with me, and I'm like, this is my guy. Yeah. And so he became my favorite. And then once I started doing comedy, some folks who I really looked up to that I got to open for Maria Bamford a few times, and that was incredible. I have the same manager now as Patton Oswalt, so I got to open for him a number of times, and he is also an incredible human being and a hilarious comedian.
I have his quote from Annihilation.
That
he ended with,
it's chaos, be kind.
Yeah. He and I are like social buddies and things like that. Real quick about Mitch Hedberg, my favorite joke of his is I saw a wino eating grapes once. I said, dude, you have to wait.
Yeah, I mean, I have over the past year and a half embarked upon a project inspired by Mitch. Where on my Substack, on my newsletter, it's been usually every week, but I've taken a little time off. But for the past year and a half, every week or so, I post like kind of an essay I've written about a joke that I love and like sort of its greater implications. Like, and one of the first ones that I did, and it was inspired by Mitch because I think, his jokes are often about like what could be seemingly mundane, like grapes, drinking, bananas, food, whatever things. And like, he never got like super, like, really, he wasn't revealing about his personal life. For, like some people, he's not like a Mark Maron. He's not a Myq Birbiglia. But some of his jokes I feel like are greaterly like applicable, like philosophically in life. Like, so for example, he has another one about drinking. Why did we lose him to drugs? But he lived so much in that time. And he said this one, it was, he's like, sometimes like, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, sometimes I drink wine and I get a headache after. And somebody was like, well, why do you drink it then? He's like, because the first and middle part are incredible. I'm not going to stop doing something just because of what happens at the end. Like, oh, don't eat that apple. It's just going to be a core, right? Yeah. Like that's a funny joke and an interesting point. And to me, it's like larger about life. Like we all, many people, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but death at the end of life is often scary and stigmatized and sad. And when people die, like sometimes you get old and maybe your body starts to break down and your mind might start to break down. And like there's potential pain and suffering, but the first and middle part can be incredible. I'm like,
that was, Mitch he had that stutter step kind of way of speaking, but also the whole thing you're talking about. Like I saw a comic a while ago, not a stand-up comedian, just an actual graphic comic where it was talking about like dogs and how the person's dog's dying. And then he's at the, has the dog's ashes and he's all sad. And he's like, I won't do that again. And then he meets a pup and he's like, well, let's do it again. The whole, I think it was Carlin that said life is a series of dogs. And I think Louis C.K. said when you get a dog, it's a countdown to heartache. And that's my dead dog shrine behind me. So that was full circle right there. But real quick. So Paul Reiser, wasn't he coming up around the same time as Howie Mandel, if I recall, in the early 90s?
Yeah, I mean, he was like Seinfeld's contemporary. Yeah, he was like one of the guys in the 80s that like at the time when your act was, about your life. And so Seinfeld got the show Seinfeld. He got Mad About You. Tim Allen gets Home Improvement. Brett Butler gets Grace Under Fire. Roseanne gets Roseanne. Like, so he was like a contemporary of like all those.
Ray Romano.
Ray. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody loves him.
Cosby doing this.
Who's that? I don't know about that guy, but
but his work was clean.
Except for the one about Spanish Fly. That was a bit of a tell.
Do you remember that joke when he said God made man and then he made woman and he saw her body and he said, whoa.
Is that Cosby?
Remember that, but
that's a Cosby joke.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that. You go back to
it was right there all along.
The calls were coming from inside the house.
The cause was coming from inside. Yeah. Wow.
What was I gonna say? I forget. Keep going. Sorry. All right.
Oh yeah. So just the people that then I got to work with, like Myq Birbiglia got me a couple of gigs, and like I opened for him. He actually was the person who recommended me to Eugene Merman's, like invite them up to get to be on that show. And then like Todd Barry took me on the road a little bit. And
you're naming all that's like my whole everything you're naming. I'm just like, yep.
Yeah. Here's a funny, like this is a funny analogy in my own life. So I heard a story about George Carlin and Louis Black from before Louis Black was like as Louis Black as he would become, like when he was just a working comic, nobody really knew who he was. George Carlin apparently like left him a message or something. This is the story that I don't know if anyone knows the complete true story and it's nothing like this, please don't tell me, but or do. I'm happy to know the truth.
Louis is actually a voice. My agency has Louis as a client. It's like
Well, check. Feel free to confirm this, but the spirit of the story, I think, makes a lot of sense. That George Carlin left a message for Lewis and was like, Lewis, I saw your comedy. I love it. I think you're the funniest, and there's nothing I can do to help you. Goodbye.
Love it.
Oh, this is George Carlin, by the way. It's like, George, you already hung up. Anyway, but so I'm like, that's a thing that in my own life, I remember being on the road with Todd, which was very cool of him to, have me feature for him, open for him.
And the two contrasts in the styles between you two, my God, like you're so high energy and Todd is famously medium energy or low energy, but
I mean, his first album was called Medium Energy.
Medium Energy. Like, just one of the funniest guys on earth, Todd Barry.
And I do think that absolutely Todd is incredible. And when I was opening for him, it was like closer to the time when I was more standstill, like pre Micah Sherman. It was like right when I'd met Micah Sherman and Rory. So I was definitely like on my way to like talking more, but and being, higher energy, but and maybe that's why I stopped working for him. He's like, my energy got too much for Todd. Take that, Todd. Todd, I'm joking. Todd, you understand jokes? You do. Todd, are you listening to this podcast? Pretty cool. Thank you.
Todd's joke about Slash and the London harmonic.
Love. Yeah, of course.
He basically says how like Guns N' Roses were opening. We're doing a show, and they had like the London Philharmonic behind them, and they all had their sheet music, but Slash didn't. And it's just like, oh wait, so the first flutist of the like, oh, what is B? Oh, C? Whoa, back to G. But Slash is just going nuts without sheet. I think it's so
Slash
funny.
knows the tune. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What a ridiculous like observation to make. That's such a comedian thing. Like, who else notices that besides a mind like that? I love that.
Here's one of my favorite Todds is he's like something like this, paraphrasing. He's like, I saw the box set, Steely Dan's box set, the entire works of Steely Dan. Like, who's that for? Someone who's like, well, I've never listened to any Steely Dan. I think it's about time I listened to every Steely Dan.
So great.
My wife actually didn't know who they were until somebody mentioned it in her Twitch stream. I was like, "You don't know Steely Dan, huh?" No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of my favorite things these days is how I'll be the age that I'm closest to. I'll turn 48 in a couple months, and when you're a child, you only know your own things. You only know what's going on in your home, the TV that you're watching, especially. For us growing up, if you're in your 40s or, give or take a decade, growing up in the 80s, 70s, 90s, even, pre-internet, pre-streaming, like when there were at one point only 3 channels, only 5 channels, only like the main, like everyone was, and now beyond channels, there's platforms and like literally you cannot watch everything that there is, everything on YouTube, people are putting things on YouTube faster than people can watch things on YouTube. So now people don't have the same monocultural like reference points. So like today, like, will there ever be somebody as like unifyingly, like cross-generationally, cross-culturally famous as like the biggest movie stars of the 80s, right? I don't know, but this is a funny thing. My girlfriend was working at Barney's, and Madonna was coming in, and this is like 10 years ago, let's say 10-ish years ago, give or take. And Madonna had like I think a product line coming out that was being sold at Barney's, and a lot of people were really excited because Madonna, this is a thing I think I learned, that in the 80s, 90s, 2000s and 2010s, there are only like 4 musical acts that had a #1 hit in all of those. And I think it was Madonna, Weird Al. Yeah, Weird Al's my favorite member of that. Like U2 maybe. And like maybe either Michael Jackson, the Beatles, like, the big.
Like, was Michael Jackson dead by then? I don't know.
I think he could have still had, I think he died in 2009, but he could have still had a hit in
the weekend. The weekend I met my wife was the weekend he died. But yeah,
nice.
I was at the Montreal Comedy Festival, and I remember Josh Fadem, hilarious comedian friend, came up to me and was like, "Did you hear what happened to Tito Jackson?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "His brother died." An incredible it's funny that we were even on the topic and it still works as a joke. But that's like a Zach Galifianakis joke I love as well, where he's like, somebody asked me, where were you on 9/11? I was like, what year? Anyway, please continue.
I was doing a gig with Andy. I was doing a gig with Andy Pitts when Michael Jackson died. I remember Andy Pitts?
I love Andy Pitts. God, what a guy. I remember him back when he wasn't Andy Pitts.
Andy Vastola.
Yeah. I opened for him. He was I opened for him probably also like 20 years ago. And,
his first name was what, Pistola?
No, Andy Vastola.
Yeah.
Okay. So now he's Pitts?
No, his real name is Andy Pitts. Yeah.
Okay, so then he changed. Okay, because I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think they're all from his family. Names as part of his family, but one of them was a stage name, and one of them was, the birth certificate name. And
he did try Andy Schwarzenegger for a few days. That didn't work very well, so he went back to family name.
I think it's time. Here's a quick funny story about one of my best friends named Zach Sherwin. I don't know if you guys know Zach, but he has been at times a comedian, a rapper. The show that he does now is called The Crossword Show. And if it comes anywhere near you, like it only performs live, like, a few times a year, a few places, but it's one of my favorite works of art. It's comedians on stage in a panel solving a live crossword, but then there's music and games and it's an incredible event. Anyway, so Zach started as a rapper and comedian and comedy rapper. And we went to college together. So I've known him since like 1998. And then when he started doing comedy, he took on a stage name as the comedy rapper. He went by MC Mr. Napkins. And he was just like partially, and he now goes by Zach Sherwin. At a certain point, like, he developed a gigantic YouTube following. He wrote and performed in epic rap battles of history. I don't know if you know those guys, but they're incredibly popular and really a lot of fun. And so Zach has been like Einstein in Einstein versus Stephen Hawking, and I think Sherlock Holmes in versus Batman. And like, he's awesome. He's funny. He's smart, and he switched his YouTube channel. He made a video about his stage name called Stage Name, and it explained like why he started with it, because he used to be insecure and kind of needed, to front and be like, yeah, I'm not enough. I need to be like a rapper, like bigger and like stronger and different than myself. But he's like, but now I've come to a place in my life where I'm like, I think I am enough, more than enough, so I can shed the stage name the way that, did you know that on rockets, when rockets take off, this is in the song, when a rocket takes off, it has more on it than it needs, and it needs to shed parts of the rocket when it gets into space, and the parts that it needs to shed so that it can fly farther are called stages. So he's like, my stage name was a stage of my career that I needed to shed so I could launch even further, started his own YouTube channel. Anyway, so now he just goes by Zach
Sherwin.
That's
actually surprisingly deep.
Yeah,
it's real. He's a genius. It's incredible. I recommend all of Zach's music videos. Check him out on YouTube. He's got a couple albums as well. The reason I'm bringing up the story is actually to tell a story about one of the funniest things comedian Adam Newman ever said to me.
I know.
So because we all met Zach many people met Zach when he was going by Mr. Napkins, MC Mr. Napkins. Sometimes a good friend of mine once forgot it, and he was like, what is it, DJ Dr. Towels? I was like, close, almost got it. But I remember talking with Adam Newman. We were on a show at Caroline's probably, 10 years ago, after Zach was going by Zach Sherwin, no longer MC Mr. Napkins. And I brought up Zach because he's one of my best friends, and he comes up. We talk almost every day. So he comes up in my life and conversation frequently. And so I brought him up, and so I said, Zach, and then Adam was like, oh, MC Mr. Napkins? And I was like, oh yeah, he's actually not using that anymore. He's just going by Zach Sherwin. And then Adam immediately goes, oh, so it's available? So I love it. And so the point is, Madonna was doing an event at Barnes.
See? Full circle. We're doing long form entertainment.
And everyone was excited because Madonna was a big deal 10 years ago and forever.
Sure.
And there was one person who was probably about 20 years old, give or take, 10 years ago. So a person probably in their 30s now, or around at least 30, who said, who's Madonna? And then people were like, you don't know who Madonna is? Like, not to be judgmental, but to be sincerely, mind-blowingly curious. Like, you don't know. It would be like today, be like, who's Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Who's Beyonce? Like, who's Jay-Z? Like, who's like who's the Beatles? You know,
Who's
but this
the Who?
person, yeah, wonderful choice. The Who's on first.
Who's Steely Dan?
Yeah, and
You know, yeah.
And that she was like, oh, okay, I guess it sounds familiar. And that made it kind of even funnier. To be like, it's fine. But it's fascinating that there are, like, I looked up once, do you know who the highest paid entertainer in Europe was, who died in 1959? A clown named Grok. Nobody's heard of this person.
Love that.
But they were like the Kevin Hart of Europe 100 years ago. Like, to be like, who's Kevin Hart today? But of course, like, time will do this to all of us. Like, we have access to it. We have access to all the information that has been saved and stored on the internet. And yet now, like, if you have a kid now, like, do you have, like, okay, who do you have? You got to listen to these guys. You got to listen to this person.
You know, it's so funny. Like, my kids now, my oldest is 10 and her friends in 10, 11, 12 years, they all know Michael Jackson now. Like, they all talk about it. And I'm just like, I don't know if it's because of the movie or what, but like, how would you, of all people, like, why would you know, how did he still come about? Which is interesting because they mostly listen to just, you know, Meghan Trainor and K-pop and all this shit. But it's just like, but Michael Jackson is still really relevant.
The movie is probably helping. Yeah.
Well, the niece loves Tupac, by the way, and that's why I love it when she's on the phone with Lauren, and she's like, "That's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker." And I'm like, "Riley, what are you doing?"
Wow,
classic.
That's you gotta quote him. Yeah.
Real quick. So, Cliff, you mentioned comic books before. Myq, you're a big comic book guy, if I remember.
Big comic book guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk comic books for a few minutes. What are you reading? Anything fun now?
It's mine.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Cliff put out one called Scrapper.
Cool. I look forward to reading it.
With Image.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh man, that's legit. Congrats, man. That's really cool. Like, I will first plug my friend Joe Karg, who is an artist, an illustrator who I recently read. He released on Kickstarter and self-produced, self-published a collection of like lots of comics by like really cool, like some of his students, because he teaches, but also just like, people who aren't as, known as widely. And it's called I Feel Doomed. So I recommend that. Nice. But I mean, for the ones that you may have heard of, I really love what DC is doing with the Absolute universe. Like, the Absolute Wonder Woman is really beautiful. Absolute Superman. I met Jason Aaron when I performed in Kansas City once, and we've gotten to be friendly. And so I love everything that guy does. He is one of the greatest writers, I think, alive today in comics. And like, his Once Upon a Time at the End of the World is really great. His run on Thor is beautiful. He did the Avengers. He created the female Thor. So I love anything Jason Aaron. His original thing that I read was, I think, also maybe for Image. It was definitely for maybe it was for Vertigo. It was definitely for like a more niche company, more adult, and it was called Scalped, and it was like a story, a crime noir story on a indigenous person's reservation, and it's really, really awesome. So I love him and that kind of stuff. I love all of Ed Brubaker's stuff, all of the other crime noir stuff, like Criminal and Incognito, and he's writing other ones now called Reckless, I think. I've recently gotten through the whole X-Men Krakoa saga that happened recently, where basically X-Men became they could reincarnate. Like, if they were killed, they were functionally immortal through the powers of 5 specific X-Men who were able to codify your brain patterns up to a point you could save game and then reload, because somebody could create eggs that then could be gestated into a new body for you, and your old memories could get put into it.
It's so crazy how this has been going for so long and how many storylines they still can branch off and think of. I think it's so impressive. How they're still like rebooting stuff and doing things like that. Yeah.
I remember Batman Year 100 right now, which is pretty good.
Oh, very cool. Paul Pope, I believe. Yeah. And there's so many awesome Batman stories. I loved when Chip Zdarsky was writing it. I love that guy's stuff a lot. It's really like funny and weird and cool. I know they're making a show out of Zdarsky and Matt Fraction, who's writing Batman Now's Sex Criminals. I don't know if you know about.
That was a great. They're adapting it to movie, right?
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani and Emily are making a show out of it at Amazon, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, he did Kumail's podcast a while back. He's a good guy.
Yeah, Kumail's awesome. And this show, like Matt Fraction is a brilliant writer, and Zdarsky is a great writer and artist. And for those that don't know, Sex Criminals, basically, I think Chip shared, I follow his Substack newsletter. It's really funny and informative. And
you gotta pitch it.
Oh yeah. So in this one, he, I think, just shared like a screenshot of the email that, like, without which, there wouldn't be an Amazon show being created about their comic. And it was basically just Matt Fraction was like, what here, let me pull it up exactly, because I don't want to, spoil the, hold on, searching for
such a delicious premise.
Oh yeah. It's okay. So I think it's, I'm looking at the email, the subtitle or the title of the email. The headline is Sexecutive Producer, because he's an executive producer on Sex Criminals. And here is, on March 31st, 2012, Matt Fraction sent an email to him that subject line, "What if?" And it said, "What if we did a sex comedy about a guy who every time he ejaculates stops time?" And so that's what the comic is. And he's like, and then they're like, I guess we'll rob banks after I ejaculate because it stops time and we'll be able to.
I'll get nothing done. Am I right, guys?
He's got that post nut profit.
Yeah. So I love those. I just get stuff. I love Al Ewing. Al Ewing is writing Thor now. It's now the Mortal Thor, because things happened with the Immortal Thor, which just, I love when Dan Slott does a great job. He's written an incredible Silver Surfer. He wrote tons of Spider-Man. He did a Fantastic Four. And there's some of these things that people are doing are, Tom King on Batman. Tom King's Batman is legendary. All of his stuff. Tom King's Supergirl story is a lot of what became the Supergirl movie. And like, he is there's a story in the Batman Tom King run where Superman, like Lois and Clark, are on like a double date with Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, Catwoman. And like each one of them, it's just so human. He like makes them so human, where there's like each one of them event later is like talking about, like, Superman's like, Batman's so cool. My God, everyone wants to be him. And Batman's saying to his partner, he's like, he's like, he can do everything. I'm just a guy. Like, people want to be that, like, that's the guy. And it's just like such a human thing for these, like, the most heroic characters.
But those are the moments that those are the moments that so many superhero movie adaptations don't get. It's those human moments. It's the whole, I think it was the debate on the farm where Cap is going back and forth with Tony Stark, and that pulls the wood apart, and they're talking about the ideologies that led to Civil War. And just those are the moments. Like, you could throw all the CG shit at me all you want, but if you don't have those human moments, you don't give a shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love that now there are too many comic book movies and TV shows for me to even see them all. Like, when it first started, I was like, I'm seeing all of them. And now I'm like, now I'll see them all eventually when I can, if, there's other things in the queue as well. But something that some of these guys do, like Tom King and Dan Slott, and like these incredible writers who take what makes the character great and iconic and timeless and like recognizable from 100 years ago or 50 years ago, and then also adds new elements to the story, like by changing. I mean, that's what the Absolute line is doing, where they're like, what if Superman came to Earth not as a baby but as a teenager? Or what if Wonder Woman was raised in the underworld instead of the overworld? And then like just see where those lines.
Well, those kind of like Red Sun. Like, what if Superman had landed in Russia, right?
Absolutely. That Mark.
So I mean, do you guys think both of you think there's maybe not only so much room in our hard drives up here, like some Johnny Mnemonic shit, where there's just too much data, like, and it's a zero-sum game. Like, fuck, I can't remember what happened in that one show. Like, there's so much out there.
I think Madonna needs to get her own comic
Ha
book.
ha ha. I just saw
to.
that she did stand-up comedy. Did you see that?
Oh, God,
She did a
crazy.
40-minute set, and the news just came out. I
40.
don't have any more details than that, but I think it was being produced by like maybe Amy Schumer was hanging out with her or something, so she was like brought her
you're
on.
right, actually. Mhm.
I am actually right.
I'm
Listen,
sure it was.
so
I'm sure it was hilarious.
this to
I'm
tie
sure
this
she's
kind
got
of
some
together.
stories.
I mean, the wonderful thing about the fact that we can't watch everything. We certainly can't retain everything. We can't remember everything. We can't reproduce everything. And thank goodness, because then nothing would be new. Nothing would be surprising. Like it would be like, there's like some people like Mary Lou Henner or somebody I think has like, there's few people who have the literally remember every moment of their life, like what people were wearing, what day it was, what they said,
what day, what time. It's the weirdest, like,
and so
like
it's
superpower. Yeah.
Like being able to not remember everything is actually like the superpower that helps us live a healthier, happier life. But also, this will tie together with a conversation I had about Thor and about writing comics with Jason Aaron, who was writing Thor. And I remember talking to him afterwards, after his run was over, and I'm like, your run, like, because his run involved like the end of the universe and like the future Thor, and like I was like, it's so comprehensive. I'm like, how can there be more stories? Like, and like at first I was like, did you read all of the Thor before you started? He was like, it would be impossible to read all of, like, he's like, no, I mean, he's like, he did all as much research as possible, like read the major things, like he knows the character. But then he was like, and then I told my story, and my story exists in its bubble, and that's its story. And he's like, and then I was talking to the guy who's taking over the book after me, and I'm like, I'm excited to see what you do with the character. If you need to burn down everything that I did, burn it down. It's just like every story, every moment is kind of, it's like, obviously Marvel has What If and DC has Elseworlds, and they're like, oh, what if Superman was Russian? Or, what if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? Like, I have this old joke where I was in a comic book store, true story, where, can you believe me in a comic book store? But this guy was telling a woman, these are made up stories. What if comics? These are made up stories that didn't really happen. And I was like, yeah, these are all made up stories that didn't really happen. Like Spider-Man isn't a cobbler or a photographer. He's not real. But because that is so beautiful that every story gets to exist like in its own world on its own terms. And I mean, I was just talking to Augie Smith, the comedian. Augie, super great guy, one of the producers of the Big Sky Comedy Fest in Montana. And he was telling me that he's really proud of that festival because in part, he's like, he hopes that, because there's a competition, but that's not the only thing. Like there are workshops and there's like outings and there's like, everyone does all these activities together and it's like communal and celebratory, as compared to like, sometimes you become a headliner and then you go on the road and you don't get to see your friends because everyone who you started with is also maybe a headliner as well. And you're working with younger people or newer people, and that's fine and cool and good. But he's like, this festival, he's like, I want it for people who feel like it's a grind and like have sort of lost the spark to like re-fall in love with comedy. And I'm like, I'm grateful that exists and I'm excited and I've applied to it. I'm like, ooh, that would be fun to do. But I'm glad that I'm never not in love with comedy. I love comedy, and the same thing for comic books. I'm like, for a time, I'm excited that the library, like wherever you live, if there's a library, you can read comic books for free. And if there's only a small library near you, there are systems by which your library might be like a sibling library with another library. Like I live in Manhattan. I have a library card in my like electronic reading capacity that for the Manhattan library sets, for the Brooklyn one, for the Queens one, which are all different and some of them are massive. But then also Buffalo, if you have a New York library card, you can get books from Buffalo, like not, probably not like the physical ones, but you can get ebooks and audiobooks. And the fact that I mean, and so that like reinvigorated. I'm like, I don't have to spend a lot of money on comic books.
Did you see the Atlantic article recently that was talking about the death of reading?
I did. I saw the headline for sure. I didn't read the article.
And that's why you're part of the problem. But I mean, that's going back to the comedians that don't like comedy is actually point C on our agenda here. And like, like the thing you're talking about, that workshop festival, that sounds like Burning Man, but fun. Like, that sounds like something that'd be awesome to go to. But I mean, that's the thing. Brian was saying that you love comedy, but there's comedians that don't love comedy. What the fuck is that? What is the deal with that?
I feel like, again, I'm sure Mike can agree. Like, growing up where we did in stand up and everything, Boston and New York, like I was beyond spoiled. Like, every night I got to see Patrice O'Neill and Greg Giraldo and Goldman and Bill Burr and Gaffigan and people like that, and Jessica Kirsten, and it's just like I fell in love with comedy because I had loved it before, but seeing the best of the best every night was such a privilege for me. And I feel like a lot of comics, if they're not in a major city, don't get that experience, and maybe don't know what comedy can be sometimes, or maybe they don't love it. I don't know. I mean, maybe some do, some don't, obviously, but a lot of comics never go to the club, never watch the headliner and things. I'm always like trying to encourage, especially newer comics, like, go watch the pros when they come to town.
Well, that's one of the things I've learned in this little mini journey I've had, as you've been my Sherpa, Brian, is that sense of community. You know, look at this fucking sheet of the names I have to look up. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you look at, like, I remember one of the times I went to the Comedy Store and seeing all the comedians, even if they're not even doing anything that night, they're just there, just fucking hanging out. And one of the biggest things I'll regret about quitting drinking is the fact that I got to go backstage with Stanhope and get fucking hammered with him in bingo one time. That was one of my bucket list items.
Oh, yeah, man.
You did it.
So. I think 60 inches of AIDS on any given Sunday is one of the greatest bits ever done. I'm sorry. That just kills me every time I listen to it.
My favorite Stanhope chunk is the part about his mother's dying. Like, it's
did you read his book?
I did. Yeah.
She was like hogging all the what was it, the morphine, and like they were hoping she would leave some for him. And she just had it all.
Mean, but it's a beautiful, poetic, like, work of art. I mean, it's hilarious and so, like, moving and touching, and has that thing, that it has when Batman and Superman respect each other. That's Stanhope's act. And a fun joke that's also true. Like, to your point, I am newly, like, I love living with my wonderful girlfriend of 10 years. Like, so when I do a set and leave without watching the rest of the show, it's in part not because I don't love comedy. Like, if she were out of town, I would stay at the show longer, but I'm like, I want to get home and watch Hacks with my girlfriend. I want to get home and talk to my girlfriend. I want to, like, it's all celebratory, like, at that level. But also, a month and a half ago, we drove from New York City to Rochester, New York, which is like a 6-hour drive about, and just for one night to see my friend Baron Vaughn do his one-man show that he was doing at a theater there. And it was, he's, if I didn't know him personally, would I have done that? I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I've had people, I wonder if you've had people, like, sometimes people come up to me after a show and they're like, thank you for coming to Kansas City. I drove here for 3 hours because this is the closest you've ever been to me. And I wanted to come see that. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, certainly, like, on paper, monetarily, like, it's not worth, I'm like, wow, like, an investment of how much does gas cost and a hotel for the evening. And, but to have this artistic experience, like, especially, I mean, if you live in New York City, if you live in a giant city, if you live in Chicago or LA or, Boston or what have you, like, there's art happening all the time that's, like, good and often free, certainly cheap. Like, the best comedians in New York, it's Brian Regan was on Mark Maron's podcast years ago when it existed, and I remember him saying, like, there's, like, a formative comedy, like, interview memory where he's like, when I was starting out, Brian Regan says, like, I got to do, like, a college at one point. I performed at a college for the first time and got $1,000 for my comedy. And then I drove back into New York City or whatever. And I was like, I can go to the comic strip and do, like, a late night set. And I got paid $20. And I'm like, what is my comedy worth? Is it worth $1,000 or is it worth $20? And, like, at a certain point, like, I mean, it's a funny question. And of course, he loves doing comedy so much that he'll do it for free. Like, it's good to do it to be able to get paid and, eat food and pay rent. But, like, I've had shows. I had one night in Boston, I remember, I think about in the same terms, where I was opening for, I think, Greg Barrett at, like, the Wilbur Theater, 1,100 seats. I'm opening and getting paid, like, maybe $100 to do 10 minutes of comedy. And then I went across the street, like, just a couple blocks away. There's It was either Nick's Comedy Stop or I think it was the Vault, Dick Doherty's Beantown Comedy Vault.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Dick Doherty and the Vault. But that was one of the clubs that I started at, and I was featuring there that night. This is, probably like 2008 or something. And I was featuring, and I was getting paid like $50 to do 20 minutes of comedy, maybe $75. I was getting paid less to do more comedy. And then I went to do, I headlined a late night show across the river in Cambridge, just like hop 20 minutes away. I'm closing the show. I'm doing a half hour and I'm getting paid nothing. And
what a night.
They were all fun, but like the show where I'm headlining for nothing was like the most free, the most experimental, the most good thing, because that's the one that, like, if I'm not there, it doesn't matter. I'm like, I'm there for a reason because I love it. And I mean, different people.
So the irony is the show you got paid the least was the most rewarding.
Certainly the most financially rewarding. Oh no, the most rewarding financially is not always the most rewarding emotionally. Yes. I mean, because sometimes you're getting paid to do, when you're getting paid, like, let's say the extreme, a corporate, let's say you're getting paid, more money than you usually get paid to do comedy. They're not paying you to, I mean, unless you are like Robin Williams, Rory Scovel, somebody who is known for improvising or being in the moment. If you're hiring a comedian with an act, you're probably hiring them. You're not paying them for those 20 minutes. You're hiring them for the 20 years of comedy work that they've put in to create the product of that 20 minutes that you want.
It's a great point. Yeah. Let's wrap it up in a minute.
Success.
Yeah, let's wrap it up in a minute. Speaking of Rini, your girlfriend, your special on YouTube is called Rini, Rini, correct?
Yes.
It is absolutely hysterical. It's so good.
Thank you, my friend.
Everybody should go watch it. It is very fun. Follow you at Myq Kaplan, MYQ Kaplan. Explain that real quick. The Myq.
Happy to. Well, first
persona.
I'll say,
I think I've talked to you about it in the past, but yeah. So.
This for the people. Rini is spelled Rini, and it's short for Catherine, and no time to get into that. But the reason the special is called Rini is because Rini and I created the special together. It's about our relationship. So it's kind of a comedy show, love letter that we wrote to each other, with each other, about each other. So that is the nature of that. And so why my name is spelled Myq, the weird way that I spell it, goes back to about 1993 or 4. I should double check. I was like 14-ish, and I was at summer camp, and it was right when the news came out that Prince had changed his name to a symbol and was no longer going by Prince. If you said it, you had to say the artist formerly known as Prince, and he had created this weird hieroglyphic, combination of male, female, ancient Egypt, whatever it is. Like, and so compared to that, you don't even have to get a whole new keyboard made to type my name. But so I'm like less weird than that guy. But truly, as a child, like a formative, weirdo, I was like, that guy's doing something weird and cool. And we didn't know that it was like about his like dispute with his record label, and he wasn't able to release music on his own as Prince unless he went through them. And that's where he's like, well, then I'm not Prince, I'm this guy. And then a few years later, I was like, oh, cool. That guy's weird and cool. I'll be like that. And a few years later, Prince was like, all right, I'm Prince again. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm weird and alone now. So, but, then it ultimately, I feel like it does, certainly the search engine optimization, if you know what you're looking for, and other than if you're looking for a garage door opening company whose app is called Myq, you'll find them, and they are my SEO nemesis. I'm trying to if you need your garage door opened, please call me, not them. I'm trying to get back on top. But Myq Kaplan spelled my way. I think I'm like the biggest MYQ in comedy. I'm pretty sure. So it worked out for that. And, some of the comedy that I do is about playing with letters, words, sounds, in absurd ways.
The thing you did the last two days, you alphabetized the alphabet. Like no one think you put it was. I saw that. I was like, this is so fucking Myq. This is so perfectly him. And you alphabetized 1 through 10. Like you alphabetized in only a way you could do it. Yeah, it's a very funny.
That means I have to go by KLYPH now.
Yeah. Cliff. Yeah.
Just keep one the same, and then switch it all up. But
I've been hanging on to that one for like an hour so I could bust it out.
That's what I call it's Cliff, short for hieroglyph. Hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics. I love it. I could talk to you for 4 hours. This has been great. Our podcast is called the F13 Podcast because most keyboards go to F12. If you had an F13 button, Mike, and you pushed it, what would it do?
Oh, it would
anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. If you hit the F13 button, it would increase and maximize joy and decrease suffering and the roots of suffering for all sentient beings. It would just turn up the joy, turn down the suffering.
Fuck you, non-sentient beings.
Yeah, I know.
For them too. For
nope, sorry,
they're
you
doing
said sentient.
You're
what
right.
About the carrots? What about the carrots?
They might be sentient. We're finding out new things every day.
Fuck, you're right. You might be right. Myq Kaplan, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. People go watch his content. He's got tons of it all over YouTube and the internet and his Facebook and his Instagram and his Substack, all that stuff. And
Mike, it's been an honor. You're continuing to blow up. I'm gonna watch Rini tonight, and you're a tough man to keep up with, and so great job today.
Thank you, my friend. You did great. You guys were you really nailed it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight and pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully I will see you in person soon. Hopefully you come down here. Cliff, any cliffhangers for this episode?
No, I just thought it was I wanted to mention the time I met Nikki Glaser. We got the photo with her after the show, and then I came back the second time and handed it to her because we didn't need a second photo, and she signed it and said, "I'm a solid 8 in this photo," and that's hanging in my movie room. I'm proud of. So
that was a while ago, so you're a solid 7 now, buddy.
So yeah, Mike, I would kill to see you in person, sir. So good night's comedy. Hopefully they'll give you more than $100.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I hope to, and I'll leave you with this final joke for me about the movie Cliffhanger, which I love. It's a awesome movie. Many people have pointed out that it's weird that it does end with the story concluding, but my main point is that I think of all the Sylvester Stallone movies, it's weird that Cliffhanger is the one that they didn't call Rocky. So.
Good night, folks.
Where's that sound effect?
Hold on. We got it.
That they didn't call Rocky. Perfect.
Everybody.
I play Rocky movie coming out. Looks really good. Side note. Anyway.
Never ends.